Once you have all your furniture in, then you'll have your layout like this. You may have noticed as you've brought different items in, they've come in on their own tag. So this one, this nightstand actually has like a trim tag, a top tag, all those different things. So a great way to organize it to make it easy to turn on and off is to add a tag folder right here. And I'm just going to name it furniture. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to select the tags that I want to put in that furniture. So I'm going to move it up and come to where it kind of hovers over that for each of them. So like this one, there's a lot. There's shelf trim, all these things. And you can see it's placing them under that as through it. And you do want to make sure that it highlights it as you go through to make sure it gets in that folder. All right, so you can do that for all of them. Like I can move the bed up here, all of my furniture as I go through. So then if I turn off that furniture tag, it turns off anything that's under that as it goes through. Okay. But you do need to make sure you get all pieces of it as it comes in. And I've got a default furniture one, so we're just going to place that under there too. So whatever's in there is good. But that'll make it easy to hide and show furniture as you go through. Okay, so all of that. If anything, you can also check. So if I turn my furniture off, but I still have like the lamp is showing, I'm going to select it and come up to entity info and choose furniture so that it'll get on there. Okay, so that's a great way to check and make sure everything is on the appropriate layers, because some of it just comes in untagged as well. So I'm going to move all of that so that I know I can turn it off and on, which is helpful as we get into the scenes. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create scenes, which are a lot like layouts in AutoCAD. And we'll do this to create the different a floor plan, a furniture plan, and an elevation as we go through. So scenes are in your default tray, and they're down here where it says scenes. You can see it's empty because I haven't added any yet. So the way it's easiest to add the first one is under scenes and go to the symbol and just say create scene. Don't worry about the styles and all of that as you go through it. Okay, so now I've got my first one. So now it's created a tab up here. After I create the first one, I find it easier to work from the tabs to create new ones or rename it or move it as I go through. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to right click on this and go to rename. And you can either name it model or working model or anything like that. Okay, but I'm going to name it model so it's similar again to AutoCAD. So this is the one I would work on, and then I'm going to create new ones that are each different view. So to create the next one, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add. So now I've got where it says scene 2. And usually I like to go through and rename it at the beginning so I can remember what I'm creating. So I'm going to have a floor plan. Oops, the wrong thing. Add another one, and I'm going to make this one a furniture plan. And then I'll do one more, and I'll make it an elevation. And I'll say elevation 1, because lots of times you have more than one elevation. Okay, so now I have all of these as I go through it. So for my floor plan, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to change the view that I'm looking at. So for a floor plan, you want the top view like this, and then I want to make sure that my camera is in parallel projection, which it is, and then I don't need to show any of my furniture in a floor plan. So I'm going to come under tags, and I'm going to move my highlighted one to untagged, so that allows me to turn off my furniture one. So you can see that that's off now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my door swing tab and I'm going to turn it on so that shows that door swing that we had as we go through. You can see though that I can't see my windows. So the way that we can address this is with a section plane tool. So I'm going to go back to isometric because that's the easiest way to work with that tool. I'm going to come under tools and come down to section plane. All right, so this opens up this, and as I move it around, you see that it changes the color, and it's based on which axes that it's going to basically cut through. So this is going to take as if you had like a knife and you're cutting through it, and it's going to move part of it. So for a floor plan, I want the blue, which is vertical, and I'm just going to click on it. You can name it if you want to, but you don't have to. You can leave it like it is. All right. Don't be scared if this happens. It looks like everything's disappeared. You're going to come up to the move tool, and then you're going to select your orange box, and then you can simply move it up. So I just clicked it, and I'm moving the box so I can move it up or down. And what I want for this is I want it to be where it's kind of cutting through the windows, like you see here. So now when I go to my top view, I can see my window there as it goes through. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to view, and I'm going to turn off section planes, and so that hides that orange box. Okay. Then we're going to come under default tray, and we're going to go to styles. Now styles is how you see the lines and everything as you look at it. So I'm just going to click through them, and you can kind of see as I go through the changes I make. So this is in default styles as I go through it. This hidden line or wireframe, either one of those is going to give you kind of the cleanest look for a floor plan. So you want it just black and white. You want it to show your walls, your doors, and your windows. I'm going to come up to view. I'm going to make sure my guides are off. I'm also going to axes off. So these aren't showing right here, but it's always good to kind of turn them off. And then I can kind of zoom in and place this where I want it as it goes through. And you can play with it because like you may like the wireframe better. You may like the this hidden line better. Now you can see as I choose the styles, it's going to turn certain things back on and off because that's what's set for that style. So when I get it set like I want, I'm going to come up here to my floor plan tab, which is what I'm working on. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to choose update. And then it says save as new style. It'll say update scene. So basically this is like you're saving that scene. So now if I go to model, it's going to come back to where I was working with. And then if I click on floor plan, it's going to go back and make all the changes that I made, and it saved it that way. So now I can move on to furniture plan. Again, for this one, I want a top view. I want it to make sure it's parallel, which it is. For furniture in SketchUp, a lot of these, if I were to go hidden line or wireframe, you can see the furniture doesn't show up correctly. It's not set up that way to work through it. So what I would recommend is finding one where it maybe gives you a white background around it. So like this construction documentation style might work, something like that as you go through. You do want to see your door and your windows. You don't necessarily need the door swing. So what I'm going to do here is, once again, I'm going to go back to isometric, and I'm going to go tools, section plane, do the same thing. I'm going to do that blue section plane, and I'm just clicking once to set it. And I'm not going to name it this time because you really don't need to. This one, it's come up above it. This one right here is the first one we put on, okay? So I'm going to move this just going to move it down so that it comes just through the top of it. And now I'm going to go back to my top view to check, and that's got everything that I want. So I'm going to come back to my View tab. I'm going to turn off Section Plane. I'm going to turn off Guides, and I'm going to turn off Axes. Okay, so that cleans that up. Again, I can zoom in and shift it where I want. And then on Furniture Plan, I'm going to right-click and Update. Again, Update Scene, so it saved that. Okay, so now we've got our floor plan, our furniture plan, and lastly, we'll do our elevation. The easiest way to do an elevation is to, on your large toolbar, you have this position camera tool right here. So I'm going to come in, and for this elevation, what do I want to choose? I'm going to choose this wall right here that's got the dresser and the mirror and the door on it. So you're going to choose your position camera tool, and it's like a little person standing on an X. So you're going to place it kind of where I want it. I want it in front of the furniture because I'm going to show that. I'm going to click it once. If I click it once, then this is kind of what it does. Now, this is good because it shows me that my chair is not sitting on the floor. So I'm actually going to come in and fix that while I'm here. And it moved it out. So having these different views is really helpful because that way you can make sure that you've got everything. All right, so I'm going to work on that again, get back to that view that I was looking at, do my position camera tool, and I can place it in front and click it once, and it'll go through and it creates that elevation for me with that, okay? Now, you can also, if I go back to isometric, and if it does this where it's cutting out walls, if you'll just zoom out and hit that isometric, it kind of heals it and fixes them. But if I go back again to where I was and I go to that position camera, if I click and hold it and then drag it through, it can let you get some different views. You want to make sure that you're on an axis as you go through it. But that's another way to kind of control it. And sometimes that's helpful when you have more than one room, if you had like a house plan or something you were working on to get that, okay? So this shows my furniture as I go through. And again, work with the styles to get something that's clean on the back. So I can come in again, and I'm going to come to view. I'm going to hide my guides and my axes. I'm going to move it to where it's centered. And then again, I'm going to right click on elevation 1 and update and hit update scene. So now as I move through all of it, so you can use your model to make changes, but then as you go to each one, it's going to go to that scene. Now if I'm in my model, change here. So let's say I decide that I don't want this chair here, so I'm going to delete it. When I go back to furniture plan, it will update that so that chairs are moved, but it's still that same view that I'm looking at. Okay, so you can make those changes in that, but it gets that same view. So this is the way you want to create your views similar to the layouts in AutoCAD for each of your plans that you need.